So in front of me is standing Mr. Thomas Geer, who will retire after 40 years of being a jeweler in the heart of Dublin. It's an honor, Mr. Geer, for me to interview you. Maybe you can start by telling the landscape of jewelry shops when you started in 1969 compared to now. How is it in Dublin?
Well, it was very rough in those days. It was like the Wild West. I started out in Dolphin's Barn, and then I moved on to a shop in Balf Street, and then a number of years later I moved to Ainger Street, and then later to Mary Street, and finally to the Ilac Centre. But all those experiences, there was major robberies on a constant scale.
How many robberies in your career have you counted?
I just lost track. They were so varied. So they've attempted kidnappings, just everything imaginable. And that's how I ended up in the Ilac Centre, because there was great security. And that's...
Yeah, here we see an article from 1980. What was this article about?
That one there.
This was also about a robbery, wasn't it, Mr. Geer?
Oh yes, that was, I remember that particular one. I was putting in all the display in the window, and then all hell broke loose. These sledgehammers were coming through the window, smashing everything. I went to run out the door, to get out the door, to get at them, had the chain around the door, so I couldn't get out. And I was jabbing through the window, and they were taking stuff, and it was a bit of a mess.
Okay, I'm a journalist, so maybe one question about the robberies. How would you describe the protection you received from the authorities, from the Gardaí, during all these years as a jeweler?
Well, they did the best they could with what they had, but they weren't really that visible at the time. I suppose there wasn't that much resources. Some things don't change too much. It's almost like a history repeating itself. Happens again.
Okay, and can you describe something to address another subject about the developing tastes of the Irish women? How did you see that develop during all those years?
Well, it is interesting, all right. There was always a huge interest in gold, and then they loved so much. People were just dripping in gold, but then the gold went up in price, and fashions changed. Then there was a big move towards silver, and now it's more into all types of jewellery that would be unimaginable years ago. We'd never have thought of selling leather and all sorts of mixes and ethnic stuff and God knows what.
So do you do the same portfolio as your son Martin, or had you some other focuses or specialties in your products?
We tend to be much the same type of thing. I think he carries on the tradition of all the different stuff, combining with some specialities. Like we have our own unique products that are not available anywhere else, literally in the world. So we have all of those things and more.
Okay, so now you're going to retire, and your son Martin is taking over your business. Do you have any good advice for him, maybe how he should run his business in your spirit the best way?
Well, I'm looking forward now after 48 years to retiring and handing over, all right. And the funny thing I would say to Martin is if he can get half the enjoyment that I got out of it, well then he'll never work. It'll always be a pleasure.
Well, this is very nice because I know Martin a little bit now, and one thing that comes to the forefront very much is that he has a lot of fun in his work, because he always has a smile on his face. So that's a good sign for a successful...
Very much so. That's everything.
Okay. Thank you very much for this interview, and wish you a very good retirement.
Thank you.